Good morning, everyone. Myself, Redwar Venugopal, Assistant Professor of Physics, and I am working at the Government Degree College, Mahabubad. Uh, Today, we are going to discuss about the topic of basics of magnetism in magnetostatistics, that is in electromagnetism course. So, magnetic materials are the materials which possess or which shows the property of magnetism. That is, they attract some materials or repel some materials. These magnetic materials are used in many industries, like they can be used in loudspeakers, mic, uh, and hard magnetic materials and soft magnetic materials like iron core. So many applications are there. Magnetic materials can be classified into three categories broadly. They are diamagnetic materials, paramagnetic materials, and ferromagnetic materials. So, diamagnetic materials are the materials which shows weak magnetism. But the thing is that if we apply the magnetic field in one direction, like let us say in this direction, uh, the atomic dipoles in the diamagnetic materials aligns opposite to that particular field. These type of materials are called as diamagnetic materials. And when coming to paramagnetic materials, these are the materials which uh, shows uh, weak magnetism. But the thing is that they align, when we apply the field, they align in that particular direction only, but they shows very weak magnetism. When the in the absence of magnetic field, they align such a way that the net magnetic moment becomes zero. So these kind of materials are called as paramagnetic materials. And next, coming to ferromagnetic materials. Ferromagnetic materials are the materials which are having net magnetic moment in the absence of magnetic field also. Let us say this is our ferromagnetic material. In ferromagnetic materials, domains will be there. We are going to discuss later. In this particular domain, let us say the magnetic moments are aligned in this direction. In this domain, the magnetic dipoles are aligned in this direction. And this domain, the magnetic dipoles are aligned in this direction. Like this, the magnetic dipoles are aligned in different directions in the different domain. In this domain, all the dipoles are aligned in this particular direction. In this domain, all the dipoles are aligned in this direction. And in this in this domain, all the magnetic moments are aligned in this direction, like this. So when we apply, when the magnetic field is zero, even zero also, they possess some magnetic moment that is not equal to zero. That means they possess some positive magnetization value. So if we apply the magnetic field on this particular material, these dipoles or these magnetic dipoles within this domain tends to align in this field direction. So that is the difference between diamagnetic material, paramagnetic material, and ferromagnetic. So let us discuss one by one. Now let us discuss about diamagnetic materials. So in diamagnetic materials, the magnetic moment of an atom is mainly due to the spin and orbital motion of electrons. Here, in general, magnetic moment or magnetism is coming because of only two parameters. One is orbital angular momentum of the electron and spin angular moment of the electron. Suppose in atom so many electrons will be there. If we add all the magnetic moments in that particular atom, in some atoms the net magnetic moment for that particular atom becomes zero, but in some atoms it cannot be equal to zero. That's why what happens, the magnetic moment of an atom is mainly due to the spin and orbital motion of the electrons. Materials which lack permanent magnetic dipoles are called as diamagnetic. So just consider this one. this is the magnet. This is a magnet, but which is a diamagnet. In the absence of magnetic field, where when H is equal to 0, that means in the absence of magnetic field, the net magnetization, the net magnetic moment per unit volume is equal to 0. But when you just observe this one, this is the same material, this is also same material. What we are doing, we are applying magnetic field in one particular direction, like in this direction. But what is happening, this atomic dipoles or atomic magnetic magnets are aligning opposite to this applied field. So when the material is placed in a magnetic field here, the atoms acquire induced dipole moment opposite to the applied magnetic field. So magnitude of susceptibility is small and negative for this diamagnetic material. Therefore, relative permeability is slightly less than the unit. So they obviously they do not obey Curie-Smith law. Next, coming to paramagnetic materials. Paramagnetic materials are substances whose molecules possesses a magnetic moment, that is also permanent magnetic moment, even in the absence of external magnetic field. Just observe in this diagram. In this diagram, what is happening? These are the atomic magnetic dipoles or atomic magnets. They align in such a way that in the absence of magnetic field, the net magnetic moment per unit volume is not equal to 0. But here the thing is that the magnetic moments are randomly oriented. So in the presence of the external field, yes, dipoles tend to align along the field direction. They tend to align the field direction here it is shown. Even though they are randomly aligned in the absence of magnetic field, but when you apply the magnetic field, they tends to align in the field direction. That's why the net magnetization increases. So in the presence of external magnetic field here, dipoles tends to align along the field direction. So susceptibility is small and positive. Permeability is slightly greater than 1 for this paramagnetic material. But the thing is that diamagnetic materials doesn't obey this Curie-Smith law. But paramagnetic materials obeys this Curie-Smith law, that is chi is equal to C by T, where C is a Curie constant and T is the temperature of the substance or temperature of the magnetic material in Kelvin scale. This is about paramagnetic materials. As we have discussed earlier, just observe this one. This is a paramagnetic material. In this paramagnetic material, what is there? Already in one particular region, all the dipoles or atomic magnetic dipoles are aligned in a particular direction. If you observe in this domain is a region where or a domain in which all the magnets or atomic magnets are aligned in the same direction. So this is one domain, and this is one domain. Let us say we have 4 domains here. If you observe in one domain, 2 domain, 3 domain, 4th domain, all are in all the domains there is a magnetic moments arrangement such that the net magnetization is not equal to 0 even in the absence of magnetic field. So the spin moments of the electrons align parallel even in the absence of external electric field. Here just observe. Here these are the spin magnetic moments. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here also 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this, these are spin magnetic moments. That's why we are calling it as atomic magnetic moment. So in the absence of the magnetic field also, they align parallel to each other within the domain. So paramagnetic materials exhibit spontaneous magnetization. So the alignment is due to the exchange coupling. Here just this word is very important. Next we are going to discuss about the exchange interaction and something. because of the exchange interaction, there will be a coupling between this each spin magnet. This we are calling it as exchange coupling. So susceptibility is large and large and positive for this ferromagnetic material. So permeability is much greater than 1. So for this ferromagnetic material, permeability is much greater than 1. So just observe here what we observed till now. For diamagnetic materials, the susceptibility is small, always comparable to less than 1. And for paramagnetic materials also, the susceptibility is small but comparable to 1. But for ferromagnetic materials, the susceptibility is large and positive. Just remember that one. And there is a relation between susceptibility and permeability, that is mu r is equal to 1 plus chi, where mu r is equal to permeability of the medium or relative permeability of the medium, and chi is the what we call susceptibility of the medium, or in general we are taking here magnetic materials, right? That's why we call it as magnetic susceptibility and magnetic permeability. That's the mechanism. Next here we are comparing all the materials. So in the first diagram, this first diagram just observe, this is a paramagnetic material. All atomic dipoles or atomic dipole magnets or all atomic magnets are aligned in such that the net magnetization is zero. Net magnetization is zero in the absence of applied magnetic field. In this one, just observe. In this one, what is there? Even in the absence of the applied magnetic field, also there is a net magnetic moment, that is equal to m is not equal to 0. This is antiferromagnetic material or antiferromagnetism. In this one, what is happening? Here a mixture of atomic magnets will be there. Some atomic magnets will be having large magnetic moment, and some are having some atoms are having a less magnetic moment. They align such that the net magnetic moment of that particular antiferromagnetic material is not going to be 0. So this kind of materials are called as antiferromagnetic materials. And finally we are coming to ferrimagnetic materials. Ferrimagnetic materials. So ferrimagnetic materials are the materials which are having magnetic moments in the same as antiferromagnetic material are same. But the thing is that when we apply the magnetic field on this particular material, this dipole, atomic magnetic dipole, tends to align in this direction in the field direction. Whereas when we apply the same magnetic field on this antiferromagnetic material, some of the atomic dipoles tends to align in the field direction, and some of the atomic dipoles tends to align in opposite the field direction. So that's why what happens, net magnetization is here also not equal to 0. Now let us discuss about the properties of antiferro and ferrimagnetic materials. Just observe here, this is the spin alignment for whatever it is, antiferro or ferrimagnetic materials. The only difference I have already explained. Just observe here, this is the atomic dipole, atomic magnet, which is having large magnetic moment, and this is the atomic magnet which is having a less magnetic moment. This is like this alternative arrangement is there. But in ferrimagnetic materials, what happens? If we plot a graph between susceptibility chi and the temperature of the specimen or temperature of the magnet, the graph will be like this. It follows like this. So this is there is one particular temperature called Niels temperature. This is Niels temperature. below which they behave as like paramagnetic materials. Paramagnetic materials. Above that particular, above that particular temperature, they behave as antiparamagnetic materials. After that, they behave as paramagnetic materials, like this. That means below this temperature, Niels temperature, they are behaving as ferromagnetic materials. After this temperature, they are behaving as paramagnetic materials. So this is about antiparamagnetic material. Here also this is called Niels temperature. We are plotting the same curve between susceptibility and temperature. Here what happens, the susceptibility at 0 Kelvin, the susceptibility is 0, but it goes on increasing to a particular value. After that what happens, it again decreases. So this state, this particular state, this state is called as antiparamagnetic phase, and after this one, this state is called as again same paramagnetic phase. This is paramagnetic phase. Paramagnetic phase. This is antiparamagnetic phase. Next, coming to ferromagnetic materials, below that one particular temperature is called Curie temperature. Below one particular temperature is called Curie temperature, the material behaves as ferromagnetic material, and after that particular temperature called Curie temperature, the material behaves as paramagnetic material. These are the differences. Just observe how the ferromagnetic material, antiparamagnetic material, antiparamagnetic material and ferromagnetic materials, how they are behaving before reaching one particular temperature, and after reaching one particular temperature, how they are behaving. This depends on the temperature of the substance at which it is resides. So, if that particular temperature reaches, that phase transition happens from one phase to another phase. That is called as phase transition or magnetic phase transition temperature. But for antiferromagnetic material and perimagnetic material, that particular temperature is called as Niels temperature, whereas in ferromagnetic materials, that particular temperature is called as Curie's temperature. So now let us discuss about Weiss molecular theory. This is the theory proposed by the scientist Weiss to explain the properties of ferromagnetic material, antiferromagnetic material and ferromagnetic materials. So, according to Weiss theory, what happens, atomic magnets of ferromagnetic substances are grouped into certain regions called as domains. This theory is called as domain theory. This Weiss molecular theory is also called as domain theory. In a given domain, spins are aligned in the same direction as we have explained earlier. The internal field experienced by a given dipole in magnetic material is not only due to the applied field or external applied field, but also due to the contribution from the neighboring dipole. Just remember, here a contribution is there from neighboring dipoles also. That particular field we are calling it as Weiss field. We are calling that particular magnetic field which is contributing from the neighboring dipoles is called as Weiss magnetic field. The internal field tends to align the atoms in the same direction as its neighbor. So suppose this is one neighbor, this is one neighbor, both are like this. Let us say in between one more neighbor is there, that is let us say something like in this direction. These two neighbors, what they do, these two neighbors tends to align this one into this into their direction. That's why here exchange interaction happens. This particular reaction is called as exchange interaction or exchange coupling, and this particular theory is called as domain theory or Weiss molecular theory, and the magnetic field which is responsible for this particular interaction is called as Weiss field or exchange field. So according to this scientists, what is there? Just observe this magnetic material. These dipoles are here, like this. When we apply a magnetic field, yes, before applying the magnetic field, that means if H is equal 0 also, there is a inbuilt magnetic field because of this exchange interaction. We are calling it as, that is SI. Suppose if we apply the magnetic field which is not equal to 0, then the total magnetic field we have applied is equal to H effective is equal to H plus HI becomes, where H is the applied external magnetic field and HI is the internal molecular field or internal field. So what we are doing, we are just rewriting this one as like this. So H is equal to H plus lambda m it becomes, where lambda m in this lambda m is equal to Hi, internal molecular field. In this one, lambda is called as this molecular field constant and m is called as magnetization. But from this molecular field theory, this m is given by, that is magnetization is given by m naught mu square n divided by 3 kT into HeFF, where m naught is the magnetic moment at 0 Kelvin or magnetization at 0 Kelvin, and mu is the dipole moment of each atomic dipole, and n is the number of dipoles present in unit volume, and K is the Boltzmann constant, that is equal to 1.38 into 10 to the power of minus 23 joule per Kelvin, and T is the absolute temperature of that particular ferromagnetic substance or paramagnetic substance or ferromagnetic substance. Here N is the number of molecules per unit volume, K is the Boltzmann constant, and T is the temperature. So by equations, by substituting the equation 3, that is m is equal to m naught n mu square divided by 3 kT into HeF. This is our magnetization. Now substitute that this one in equation what we call HeFF, that is equal to HI or H external plus lambda m. Now we are substituting this one here and simplifying, what we get, m is equal to C by T minus Tc into H we will get, where C is called as some constant because in this term all are constants. Mu naught is permeability of free space. Here one more mu is there. This is magnetic dipole moment of each individual atomic magnet, and n is the number of atomic magnets which are there in the unit volume, and K is the Boltzmann constant. So what we are doing, this is called as Curie's constant. This constant is called as Curie's constant. So what happens here? Tc is one more thing is there. Tc is called, we have already discussed. This is Curie's temperature. Curie's temperature can be written as Tc is equal to C into lambda. But we know that the susceptibility is given by X is equal to m by H. So here, just take this one H this side, we will get m by H. So we are calling this m by H. That means magnetic moment per unit volume for unit applied unit applied magnetic field is called as susceptibility. From this equation we can write that susceptibility is equal to C by T minus Tc, which is called as Vir's law. This is very, very important for problems. Just remember. So Tc is called as Curie temperature. Next, coming to magnetic domains or this exchange interaction theory. This is one magnetic domain. This is one magnetic domain. Like this, many magnetic domains are there. Which this is the condition. This is the condition when the magnetic field, external applied magnetic field is 0. But when we apply the magnetic field, external magnetic field, what happens? What happens? The domains which are having their magnetic dipole moments parallel to this applied magnetic field increase their area. The domains which are aligned against the field direction, they tends to decrease their domain area. This theory is called as domain wall theory. Domain wall theory. So domain is the region in which the magnetic moment, all magnetic moments of atoms are aligned in the same direction. Alignment is due to the exchange interaction between the neighboring atoms. In an unmagnetized sample, the spins of adjacent domains are not parallel. In the absence of external field here, the magnetic moments of all the domains is not 0, because this is a ferromagnetic material. In the presence of external field has domains tends to direct in the field direction. So this is the domain wall moment theory. So just observe here in the absence of magnetic field, the situation is like this. So just observe, this is one domain. This is one domain. This is one domain. This is one domain, and this is one domain. Like this, so many domains are there. Just find drawing is not perfect, so please be comfortable. In this one, what is happening? In the absence of magnetic field, the situation is in the absence of external magnetic field, the situation is like this. If you increase the magnetic field on this particular material, what happens? See, we are applying the magnetic field in this direction. So in this domain, the magnetic dipoles are aligned into almost parallel to this field. So what happens? This domain size goes on increasing. The domains which are having their dipole moments aligned in different directions, what happens? Their size goes on decreasing, but after a particular magnetic field called saturation magnetic field, all the domains aligns into the field direction. So this is called as domain wall moment, and this theory is called as domain theory. So this is a magnetic hysteresis curve. So magnetic hysteresis curve is nothing but a BH curve. So we take a material, we apply magnetic field on that particular material, we measure the magnetic induction or magnetic flux density. So if we goes on increasing the magnetic field on that particular substance, at each and every field we measure the magnetic induction or magnetic flux density, and then what happens after a particular magnetic field, applied magnetic field, the magnetic flux density reaches a saturation value. After that, what we are doing, we are reversing the magnetic field direction. If we reverse the magnetic field direction, what happens? What we generally expect is, when the field applied magnetic field reduces to 0, this magnetic flux density also reduces to 0. That is our general expectation, but that is not happening in ferromagnetic materials and some magnetic materials. So what is happening? Even though the magnetic field reaching in reverse direction 0, there will be a magnetic flux or a magnetic induction in the material. That particular magnetic induction is called as remnant remanent magnetic field or remanent magnetic flux density here this one. So just observing this diagram I will plot. Now what we are doing, this is both 0. Initially we are starting here at S is equal to 0, B is equal to 0 initially. What we are doing, we are goes on increasing this magnetic field. So that's why what happens, this magnetic flux density or magnetic induction goes on increasing. It reaches a maximum value or saturation at this particular value. And what we are doing, we are again reducing the magnetic field in this opposite direction, and we are coming here. Just we are again reducing in this reverse direction. That means we have come to 0. But here just observe. But the magnetic induction comes to maximum value, and it is attaining a value here, even though the applied magnetic field is 0. So this particular value is called as remanent field or remanent magnetic flux density. So to make this remanent magnetic flux density to 0, we have to apply the magnetic field in the reverse direction. Reverse direction. This particular value is called as coercive field. Coercive field. So again we will go on decreasing, and it attains a least value, and it, again if we increase the magnetic field, it goes like this, not goes to the 0. So this graph is called as like this one. H, this is H. This is H. This is B. So it starts here, but it goes back, and it comes here. It comes like this. This particular BH curve is called as magnetic hysteresis curve. So the variation of magnetic induction or magnetic flux density with the applied field H for a ferromagnetic material is shown in this particular figure. So where Bs is the saturation of the magnetic induction field, Br is the residual or remanent magnetic induction field, H is the coercive field. The area of the hysteresis loop is the energy loss called hysteresis loss. So based on the area of the BH curve, again the materials are classified into two categories. That means either ferromagnetic material or perimagnetic material or antiferromagnetic material. Depends on the hysteresis loss or the area between the area occupied by the BH curve. The materials are classified into hard magnetic materials and soft magnetic materials. So let us discuss hard magnetic materials. In hard magnetic materials, the domain walls are thick. Domain wall moment is very difficult, like ferromagnetic materials. Hard magnetic materials are used to produce permanent magnets, like in so many applications we use permanent magnetic materials. Hard magnetic materials like speakers, loudspeakers. We use magnets to produce some magnetic field. They are hard magnetic materials. The energy product Br into H will be large for this permanent magnet. So permanent magnets must have high residual induction field. Br and a large coercive field will be there. For the examples for this hard magnetic materials are Alnico. In most of the loudspeakers we use this Alnico material only. So soft magnetic materials are the materials in which the domain walls are thin and the domain wall movement is possible with applied magnetic field. That means just observe, we have already discussed about the domain wall. Let us say this is one domain, this is one domain, this is one domain, and this is, let us say, this is also one domain, like this. But the thing is that here the domain wall's thickness is less. That's why what happens, if you apply the magnetic field in this direction, the domain walls are thin, right? That's why what happens, they try to move such that the domains which are there in the domains which are having atomic magnetic dipoles in the field direction, in that particular domain expands, and the remaining domains reduces their size. This is called domain wall moment. So in soft magnetic materials, the domain walls are thin and the domain wall moment is very easy with the applied magnetic field. Just here we have to note this point. Wall moment, domain wall moment is easy because the wall thickness is less. In soft magnets, the hysteresis losses are minimized because in soft magnetic materials, what happens? Just I will draw this diagram very small. Just observe here. If you observe this one, this is the H on x-axis H will be there, and y-axis B will be there. Here the hysteresis loss will be very less, like almost a straight line like this. But in hard magnetic materials, the BH curve won't be like this. That it will be like this. So it reaches some value, and it goes like this. So just observe here, the area under the BH curve is less. That's why we are calling this particular materials as soft magnetic materials. Whereas in hard magnetic materials, the area under BH curve is large. That's why we are calling them as hard magnetic materials. So soft magnetic materials are used in applications requiring frequent reversals of the direction of the magnetization, because the domain walls moment is very easy here. That's why if you apply the magnetic field in one particular direction, domains which are there having their magnetic moments in the field direction will expand, and remaining domains will reduce their size. Whereas if you reverse the magnetic field in this direction, what happens? The domains which are having their atomic dipole magnets in this particular field direction, again those domains expand. The remaining domains which are having opposite orientation, they reduce their size. Like this, the domain wall moment is very easy. That's why we can use them for applications which require frequent reversals of the direction of magnetization. So they also show very good mechanical properties, because they are their dipole their domain walls are very thin and they are easily movable. That's why they are very good materials which show better mechanical properties. So next let us come to the ferrites. So ferrites are soft magnetic materials. Ferrites are the modified structures of iron with no carbon. Just observe here. We know iron. We know iron. Actually, the atomic formula is Fe for iron. So ferrous. So these ferrites are made up of iron, but there won't be any carbon. If you include this carbon into iron, that becomes steel. So steel is not a magnetic material. So to make ferrites, we have to take one iron block without adding carbon. So in ferrites, anti-parallel moments are of different magnitudes, like this. In ferrimagnetic materials, ferrites means ferrimagnetic materials. So the anti-parallel moments are of different magnitudes. Here, this is one atomic dipole magnet. This is one atomic dipole magnet. But if you add these three, because these three are aligning in one particular direction, the magnetic moment, net magnetic moment in up direction is very high, but in down direction, the net magnetic moment is low. So that means different magnitudes. They have having different magnitudes. The general formula for ferrite is Xfu2O4. Here X can be either magnesium or MnRg. So ferrites have low eddy current losses and low hysteresis losses. That's why we are using them in soft iron cores, like transformer cores, that kind of thing. So susceptibility chi varies with the temperature T, as shown in the figure here. So the susceptibility goes on decreasing if you increase the temperature. So these are the just some diagrams for ferrites which have been shown, because ferrites have very large applications. So next let us come to applications of ferrites. Ferrites are used as a source in audio and TV transformers. Ferrites are used as memory devices in high speed switches. Ferrites are used to produce low frequency ultrasonic waves. Ferrites are used in radio receivers. Ferrites are used in digital computers and data processing circuits. So this is there for ferrites. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Or if I will post this video in YouTube. Just watch this video and ask me any questions are there in the chat box. Yeah, or if you raise your questions in the chat box, I will clarify your doubts. Thank you very much. We'll meet in the tomorrow class.